And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we are talking about the Washington Commanders and if they have a sneaky advantage over the Ravens. We're also going to be looking at some keys to the Commanders versus the Ravens coming up this Sunday. I think it's going to be one of the most anticipated games on the schedule. And so let's break into the Commanders' sneaky advantage over the Ravens. And so, if you have been following the Commanders and paying attention to the schedule, it looks like the Commanders have had a favorable schedule from the NFL. In fact, the furthest that the Commanders are going to travel is not until week 9 against the Giants. And then they're going to come back in week 15 and go over to play the Saints. And so you're looking at a team that is going to be well rested, to say the least, because they are in the same time zone. They're not having to worry too much about that. And so the Commanders might be one of the more fresher teams going into this week and then for the upcoming weeks to come. And so that could be the sneaky advantage for the Commanders. Dan Quinn acknowledged that. He actually says that, I'm not going to say it's an advantage, but it's certainly not a disadvantage to the Commanders. So I think that the Commanders have a little bit of an advantage over really the NFL, not just the Ravens, as they get ready to go ahead and travel just a short time up to play the Baltimore Ravens. And so as we go ahead and move over from this advantage, now let's look at some keys to the game, because I think a lot of people are talking about Jaden Daniels. They're talking about Lamar Jackson. If you've been paying attention, obviously, to what's been going on ESPN, they've been talking a lot about, this comparison between the two. And I think that this is going to be a terrific football game. You're looking at both quarterbacks that are just excellent at what they do, as far as just not only running the football, but going down the field for huge plays, using their feet to kind of set that up and extend plays. And I think that we're going to see something special this Sunday. And so that brings us to the point total between the two. And so starting with the Ravens, yes, they have put up a bunch of points this year. In fact, they are second in points per game at 29.4. But more importantly, they ranked first in yards per game. So that's pretty huge. But Washington, 3 straight 30-point games. They actually lead the NFL with 31 points per game, and then they are third in yards per game. And so I talked about this a little bit in week 1, and I've talked about it a couple times on a couple of videos here, that I think that it was a good start for the Washington Commanders. And if you go back and take a look at that first video I put up, I thought that them putting up, 20 plus points in week 1 was good, considering the fact that you had to believe as a Washington Commanders fan that this offense was going to get better, and it has. And I think that the playbook has opened up a lot better. I think that Jaden Daniels has actually even slowed down more from week 1. It's even crazy to say that, because, he was so poised in week 1. But yeah, I think he's even more poised now as he moves forward and has complete command over this offense. And so, I think that the Washington Commanders, really, they're in good shape, because if the Ravens, which, are going to score these type of points, the Commanders have the offense to answer that. And I think that really one of the big tests for them into this game was being able to outlast the Bengals, all right? Because the Bengals just played the Ravens. They just dropped, I believe, 4 touchdowns against this Ravens team. And it's like, if you can keep pace with most teams, you have a great chance to win, no matter how your defense plays, you just need to get that timely stop. So I think that there is an advantage here with the Commanders as far as points per game, and then also to the yards per game. It's just going to depend if the Commanders can continue to keep Lamar Jackson on the sideline. And this actually is in the favor of the Commanders, because that's ball control offense. They love to run the football. I'd hope that they would continue that. And so, speaking of running the football, we know that the Commanders want to do that. Jeremy McNichols has had a great last couple weeks. Brian Robinson had 2 touchdowns, 82 yards on the ground for Jaden Daniels to lead us. But we are going against a Ravens defense that is only allowing 2.9 yards per carry, which is the first in the NFL. And so that is where the game is going to be really won, I think, on Sunday. It is going to be in the trenches. And so we can talk about going downfield. We can talk about these huge plays, extending plays, and things like that in both defenses. But I think it's really going to be in the trenches. And I think that if the Washington Commanders are going to win this game, well, they're going to have to be able to play a ball control kind of offense. And I'm not saying that they are not being aggressive, but they're going to have to eat up the clock. And I think that that means that you're keeping this defense on the field and eventually you're just grinding it down. I think that that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to try to tire this defense out. And then that's where you're probably going to start to get some huge chunk plays. But a tall task for Washington coming into this one, no doubt, with the Ravens only averaging 2.9 yards per carry. And on the flip side of this, the Commanders, we're giving up one of the highest rates to running backs in the league right now at 5.3 yards per carry. Actually, we're dead last there. And so, you know that we have Derrick Henry coming in. He's going to run with a lot of power. He pretty much iced the game for the Ravens last week, getting them to overtime. Then you have Lamar Jackson, who is going to try to escape and then also to make some plays with his feet. So, the Commanders are going to have to continue to be disciplined in their run lanes and just really their schemes as far as keeping everything really in front of them and keeping everything inside. I think once these players start to get to the outside, that is where it is going to be tough for the Washington Commanders. And clearly, I think, too, with Derrick Henry, you want to get him started or get him stopped before he gets started. Excuse me. I think that is the key for him. You have got to make sure that once you hit him, you wrap up and you make sure other defenders are going to get there. I think we've done a terrific job as far as tackling lately. We have got to continue this moving forward. And so now that leads me to the last part of this, who has the advantage going into this game. We're looking at the pass defense. And so both pass defenses have been really terrible, actually, because when you look at the ratings as far as the pass completion rates and things like that, the Ravens are coming in at tied for 30th, and we're coming in tied for, or actually not tied, we are 32nd, so dead last in the league. And so this is what I'm talking about when it comes down to the trenches, right? You want to be able to run the football, establish tempo, keep that clock going, because there are going to be plays that are going to be had down the field, but you have to make sure that when you get those opportunities, you make them count. Like they have to go for touchdowns. They have to be huge plays that really gash this defense. And you're going to now wonder, with both defenses in the secondary trying to figure it out, it's going to be whichever team is able to, I think, make those key plays down the field that are going to push their team into the scoring situations that they would need, obviously, to get the advantage in these games. And so, I think that that's what it's going to come down to. Which quarterback is going to be able to take advantage of that secondary? Is it going to be Jaden Daniels? Is it going to be the Baltimore Ravens? Because they do a lot of their damage in the air through the tight ends and things like that, which we haven't done well with stopping tight ends. But wide receivers, Zay Flowers is the wide receiver that the Washington Commanders want to focus on. And unfortunately for the Washington Commanders coming into this, we have given up the most touchdowns to wide receivers at 10. And so if we can slow down Zay Flowers a lot like we were able to slow down Amari Cooper, Marvin Harrison Jr., like we need to do that and replicate what we did the last couple weeks to the Baltimore Ravens, then I like the Washington Commanders to go ahead and win this game. I think that this is going to be a 34 to 33 contest. I think that this maybe goes to overtime again, or it's going to come down to the last play, just like a lot of the Ravens games have been doing, coming down to the last game. So let me know in the comments what you think about the Washington Commanders and their sneaky advantage. And then also, too, what do you think about some of the advantages for both teams? This is Washington Commanders Insider. We're going to be talking more Washington Commanders football. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.